It's 5:05 and welcome into a Thursday edition of the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. I'm Nick Craig. Good morning to you. The North Carolina Division of Motor Vehicle Commissioner Wayne Goodwin is stepping down at the end of his term. That announcement comes as NCDMV undergoes an audit by the Office of the State Auditor. Goodwin announced that he would not reapply for the position during a joint House and Senate Transportation Committee hearing yesterday morning. The state did advertise his position on the state's online job portal 2 weeks ago, and the application window for that closed yesterday, the same day that he announced he would not be applying again. According to his bio, before becoming the head of the Department of Transportation, Goodwin was the president and CEO of Seaboard Strategic Consulting, where he provided counsel to insurance entities, businesses, and consumers. He also previously served as the state insurance commissioner for 8 years and an attorney. Goodwin served 4 years as a state representative from 1997 until 2004, and later served as the chair of the North Carolina Democrat Party. He was in that role from 2017 to 2021. The NCDMV has faced a lot of criticism during Goodwin's tenure for long wait times and delays in issuing driver's licenses. Among other issues, state legislators criticized Goodwin's broken operations at the DMV at a transportation committee hearing in March of last year. Legislators condemned NCDMV, the largest customer-facing agency in the state government, for ongoing dysfunction and questioned why DMV does not serve its customers well. The NCDMV is often a source of disruption for law-abiding citizens who make the inconvenient and time-insensitive trek to a DMV office. Complaints for DMV date back years and include a lack of available appointments at DMV offices, long wait times, and simply being told to come back on a different day, which has been a frequent pain point for parents of teenagers looking to become licensed drivers and making 3 different trips to the DMV within just about an 18-month period of time. Under state law, individuals new to North Carolina must obtain an ID within 60 days of moving, but it is incredibly rare to find an available slot 2 months out in the DMV's online booking system. The state's major cities don't even offer some booking time. Last year, State Auditor Dave Bullock told the Carolina Journal that if elected, his first order of business would be to conduct a full-scale audit of the DMV, and he is moving forward on that. We've got some details from the state auditor coming up a little bit later on this morning on some ongoing audits that are taking place within the state auditor's office. One of them is DMV. We'll have those details coming up for you in just a couple of minutes. It's now 5:08. You're listening to the Carolina Journal News Hour. We continue to track hurricane recovery and relief in the eastern half of North Carolina, going and dealing with Hurricanes Florence and Matthew. Some new legislation introduced in the General Assembly. The Cooper Accountability Act is now on our radar this morning. To get some more details on that, Theresa Opeka, CarolinaJournal.com, is our guest. Aptly named Cooper Accountability Act. It's an acronym for something, Theresa. What are the details?
Sure. Good morning, Nick. Cooper Accountability Act, otherwise known as the Closeout Operations Providing Emergency Relief Act, and that's a mouthful, or HB 222 is the House bill number that was introduced yesterday in the House by Representative Brendan Jones of Columbus. And finally, after nearly a decade, there's still over 1,000 homeowners that need homes. It's just really, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words after covering this for so long. So this is aiming to help those get into homes finally after Hurricanes Florence and Matthew devastated the area. It's aptly named the Cooper Accountability Act because Roy Cooper started NCORE, North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency, back in 2018. And needless to say, it hasn't done a spectacular job in helping these people get into their homes after such a tragedy.
Some of our audience might be familiar with Representative Jones. Over the last couple of months, we've played clips of him and read through quotes of his as he continued to lambast and grill leaders of NCOR over their mismanagement of this relief. Over the last couple of months, Theresa, NCOR has been back in front of the General Assembly requesting some more money, and it looks like this bill, at least in part, allocate some of those funds so that they can, in fact, close out the work and get these 1,000 individuals back in their homes.
Yes. So what this bill does, it allocates $217 million, as I'm going up through the article, excuse me, from the State Emergency Response and Disaster Relief Fund. It's another acronym there. And it goes to NCOR. And it also appropriates $1.5 million from that same fund to the Office of the State Fire Marshal for supplies and equipment needed for an emergency operations center and new office space. So it sounds like there's going to possibly be, if this is passed into law, a new emergency operations center, which would be great. And they have to, as Brendan Jones mentioned, the bill is demanding full transparency. There's real consequences for failure if all the accountability measures are not met. One of those accountability measures is that NCOR now has to report to State Auditor Bullock's office, State Auditor Dave Bullock, and they have to report on a weekly basis. And if that doesn't happen, then Bullock has to notify the commission that's, that Brendan Jones is the at the top there. Also, they're going to have to conduct additional periodic financial performance audits. Actually, that's for the state auditor's office to do. So yeah, there's a bunch of requirements in this, and which is good because, it was wash, rinse, repeat, I like to say, for all these different hearings they had with former NCOR Director Laura Hogshead that, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we did bad. We'll do better next time. I take full responsibility, blah, 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 blah. All these hearings that they had. It's time, way past time for accountability.
Well, and we look at this dollar amount, as you mentioned and as written over in your story, this allocates $217 million. However, at last figure, Theresa, NCOR said they needed somewhere in the ballpark of $320 million to get all of this work accomplished. So I guess the question to you this morning is, will this final amount of money, or this latest round of money, will this actually get all of these individuals back in their homes, or are we likely to see something 3, 5, 6 months down the road where NCOR says we're almost there, but we need just a couple million more dollars to get it done?
Well, as this, what would they say? Past history. Pay attention to the past history. Hopefully not. Hopefully this does take care of everything, but history is a good predictor of the future. So time will tell with this. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But I guess the state legislature and Representative Jones is hoping that this will definitely take care of that. They also have a provision in there, if there is anything left over, they would go back into the to the state treasury. So they're being hopeful on that, but we'll have to stay tuned and hope for the best that they do get this finally completed.
Of course, Theresa, all of this is on the precipice. As I opened the interview, we're talking about eastern North Carolina relief from Hurricanes Matthew and Florence. All of this, of course, leading up to the devastation that our state saw in September of last year with Hurricane Helene, and still a lot of questions being raised. If the state mismanaged Helene or mismanaged Florence and Matthew, what does this mean for Helene going forward? I think there's still a lot of questions in the air about that.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. They're going to be under really tight scrutiny after the mess that NCOR has made of getting this recovery taken care of over the past several years. One thing also that's not really directly in this bill, but it's semi-related, I think it's been discussed, is that Auditor Bullock's office is also going to oversee the governor's recovery office for Western North Carolina, otherwise known as GROW-NC. So they will be, he's going to definitely keep an eye out for anything that's going on in Western North Carolina when it comes to recovery there. There's going to be higher scrutiny, which rightly so there should be.
And for folks that are wondering and looking for more details about that, there is a dashboard available for some of the Western North Carolina relief over at auditor.nc.gov Helene. Theresa, you've got some additional quotes in your story from Representative Jones. Where can folks read those this morning?
Yeah, sure. And one quick link before we move on. There's also supposed to be a dashboard for NCOR as well, if this does become law. Just wanted to mention that quickly. And if you want to read more details, you can head on over to carolinajournal.com.
Theresa Opeka joins us this morning on the Carolina Journal News Hour. Where it's now 5:15, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. It's time to get a look at traffic on this Thursday morning. An update with Boomer Von Cannon.
Hey, thank you.
It's 22 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Keeping our eye on the North Carolina legislature this morning. House lawmakers moved a bill through committee earlier this week, which is aimed at curbing student cell phone use during classroom instruction time. The House version, HB 87, is a companion to a similar Senate version that was introduced in early February. The bill directs, quote, governing bodies of public school units to adopt a cell phone-free education policy to eliminate or severely restrict student access to cell phones during instructional time. Representative Neil Jackson out of Moore County said how this works out is up to the school. We're not saying you have to do that a certain way, so we're saying there is not a one-size-fits-all solution. We're saying local control is the best control. Representative Brian Biggs of Randolph County, another sponsor of the measure, said, quote, when we polled schools and school board members that are using cell phone-free policies now, they said that the outcome students and teachers had were amazing, how much better everyone was, and we just want the best outcome and to make our classrooms a safe place. The bill does not apply to remote charters or academies. 77 school districts already have cell phone policies on the use of phones within classrooms, according to the bill summary. Tiffany Gladney, the Senior Director of Policy and Government Relations for NC Child, spoke in favor of the bill, saying, quote, while this legislation will not completely solve the youth mental health crisis, it is a great first step. Representative Marcy Morey of Durham County, a Democrat there, questioned the bill for its potential limit to parents and their contact with their children during the school day. She told lawmakers, quote, I think the idea behind this bill is really good, and if I were a teacher, I would really like it. When I've gotten some emails from constituents, it's been the parents. They are worried about being in touch with their child, especially if it's an emergency. If there's an active shooter, they want to be in touch with their kids, end quote. Representative David Willis of Union County responded saying, quote, the last thing that we want kids doing at the point if there's an emergency going on is fiddling with their phones. They need to be following instruction, whatever it may be, whether it's weather-related or shooter-related. The measure passed the House K-12 Education Committee in a voice vote earlier this week and next heads to the House Judiciary Committee, where we will continue to track the details on that legislation. It's been a busy week in Raleigh, a busy week in the General Assembly, and we are learning some additional details this morning from the State Auditor's Office in regards to ongoing projects, as well as the need to respond to issues quickly. State Auditor Dave Bullock, a Republican, delivered a comprehensive update to the House Committee on Appropriations Tuesday morning, and he began talking about some of the required audits. The Auditor's Office is required to complete approximately 100 financial audits that are mandated under general statute, including things like universities, community colleges, state agencies, as well as federal grant funding that the state receives. And Bullock told the committee that he is looking to ramp up performance audits under his purview. He told the group, quote, performance audits seek to inform on efficiency and effectiveness of state government, and not just the efficiency and effectiveness, but also the program results and the results of what this body funds and what taxpayers are getting in return for the investment that this body has given by the way of an appropriation. Bullock also announced the creation of a rapid response team within the office to handle immediate requests from the public or elected officials. Bullock told the committee, quote, one of the issues sort of internally within the state auditor's office was that general citizens, members of this bodies, members of the executive branch would inform the auditor's office of something they wanted to be looked into, and our office would play what they called whack-a-mole. What would happen is they'd pull people off of ongoing audit projects and send them off on individual one-off projects. And that, in my opinion, reduces the efficiency of our team. So what I've decided to do is create a separate rapid response team to handle those issues. and that will be taking place now within the auditor's office. He then transitioned to talking about technology with, of course, rapid technological changes going on. Bullock spoke on the importance of not just upgrading and getting new computer systems, but changing the way in which auditing tasks are completed with the help of technology. Saying, quote, "We're going to be looking to upgrade the technology. And when I say upgrade, it's not doing the same old thing with new systems. It's changing the type of technology and the use of technology to use data analytics and artificial intelligence. I'm not afraid of that. If used correctly and efficiently, it can really inform things and inform this body on how dollars are used to inform the taxpayers on what their dollars are being used for as well." Bullock highlighted 3 current projects that the auditor's office is working on, and included one of them including a dashboard to increase transparency for Hurricane Helene recovery. We talked about that earlier this morning, with the launch of that system now up, while also announcing a financial and performance audit of the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency, NCOR, a full review of the Division of Motor Vehicle, and an internal audit of the auditor's office itself that will be conducted by a third party. Taking a look at those current projects and starting at NCOR, the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency, both a performance and financial audit will take place there. The state auditor's office reported that they had been meeting with lawmakers and stakeholders, gathering information on what questions will be answered. So that audit is going to be taking place. We've already covered the Hurricane Helene dashboard. You can read details on that and check that out at auditor.nc.gov/Helene if you're interested in checking out some of those additional details. In terms of the DMV, in process of a floor-to-ceiling review of the Division of Motor Vehicle, according to Auditor Bullock, and the auditor's office will be reviewing financials, performance, and IT systems. They're also going to be looking at consumer-facing operations such as office wait times and license and tag operations. Some huge frustration from citizens in North Carolina in regards to those wait times. Auditor Bullock noted that the goal is to provide more common sense, actionable recommendations to improve the operations of DMV and improve customer outcomes. And then finally, this internal audit that will be taking place. The state auditor noted that they are in the final stages of a contract to conduct that internal audit, and the purpose there is to determine how they can be most effective, compare their internal practices with industry auditing standards, and identify areas of improvement. Dave Bullock noted that the results will include details on what resources are needed to achieve maximum impact, and that report is due by May the 1st, and noted that it will inform their strategic plan going forward. The state auditor also presented several requests for the department, including increased and full-time positions for auditors, investigators, and data analysts, additional recurring appropriations for software needs to conduct quicker, more efficient audits that can go deeper into the data, some non-recurring funding for contracts to clear unfinished business from the previous administrations, and increase audit production until staff positions are added, and finally, some construction and office space needs to return employees back to their office. This article's got some screenshots and some pictures in it as well, and you can read more details by visiting our website this morning, carolinajournal.com, where it's now 5:30, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. Another look at the roadways on your Thursday morning early commute, an update with Boomer Von Cannon.
Hey, thank you.
It's 5:36. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. We are streaming live this morning on our Carolina Journal YouTube channel. You can also catch the show 24/7 wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for the Carolina Journal News Hour in your favorite app. Hit the subscribe or follow button and you'll get a new show delivered each and every weekday morning. It's the Carolina Journal News Hour podcast. Download and subscribe now. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein and Republican legislative leaders are seeking a court ruling on the legality of shifting control over the State Board of Elections to the state auditor's office without a trial. The dispute centers on Senate Bill 382, which was passed last year. That would transfer appointment power over the elections board from the governor to the state auditor starting July 1st of this year. Stein's legal team argues that this move is an unconstitutional power grab by the legislature, undermining the governor's duty to enforce election laws. They cite past court rulings striking down at similar legislative attempts to strip the governor of this authority. Legislative leaders counter that the General Assembly has the constitutional authority to assign the executive branch duties amongst the state officials and that the governor does not have exclusive control over the executive branch. Both sides have filed motions for summary judgment, hoping for a ruling in their favor without proceeding to trial. The governor now has the appointment power over the 5-member State Board of Elections based on recommendations from leaders and the state Democrat and Republican parties. He can appoint no more than 3 members from one party, effectively giving the governor's party, in this case it's a Democrat under Governor Josh Stein, a 3-2 majority under the current setup of the State Board of Elections. Again, Senate Bill 382 looks to make some changes there. A 3-judge Superior Court panel did rule against the General Assembly in 2023 against previous attempts to restructure the election board and shift some of those powers away from former Governor Roy Cooper. He also filed suit at the time to block that and was successful. As it continues, we'll keep an eye on it. You can read a bunch of the legal quotes on this story. The headline over at Carolina Journal: Stein, top lawmakers clash in court over NC election board changes. You can read that story by visiting our website this morning, carolinajournal.com, where it's now 5:39, News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. We are tracking some news out of Raleigh this morning as it relates to the North Carolina Division of Motor Vehicle. To get some details on that, Theresa Opeka, carolinajournal.com, joins us this morning on the News Hour. Theresa, thanks for the time. Looks like some big shakeups coming to NCDMV.
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks so much, Nick, for having me. So, yeah, yesterday it was during a committee meeting, which I'm not sure if ever anybody really knew that this was coming, but the DMV Commissioner Wayne Goodwin said he's going to step down when his term ends. He's not going to run again, or not, rather, he's not going to apply again for the position of commissioner. And this is all going on as the state auditor, Dave Bullock, is conducting an audit of the DMV because there's been I don't know. I've had no problem when I got a license a few years ago. However, I think I'm the exception to the rule because there's so many people having trouble. They have to crisscross the state because they can't get an appointment. There's just a big mess going on with the DMV. So it's really not a surprise.
Well, and you talk about the issues ongoing with the DMV a little bit later on this year. Real ID is going to be required for individuals that want to fly domestically in the United States unless they have a passport or other sort of federal ID to fly. So, Theresa, you can only assume that over the next couple of months, individuals are going to be flooding DMV offices as they fly domestically here within the United States and need to get that new ID.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, that's times of the essence, and you want to make sure you have everything in place to prepare for that, or you've been doing that over the course of the last few years. And I guess Goodwin has been doing that, but not to the degree that the office needed to have that put in place. So yes, you must get all that stuff in place because there's going to be a mad rush, I'm sure.
Looking at an article published over at CarolinaJournal.com dealing with State Auditor Dave Bullock, he was in front of a General Assembly this week as well, talking about the audit of the motor vehicle. And Theresa, in one of his bullet points, he says a floor-to-ceiling review of DMV, looking at things like financial performance and IT systems. I suspect that audit is probably going to produce some pretty eye-popping results for citizens of North Carolina.
Oh, I am sure it will be. I mean, it just seems like every day we're hearing all about this stuff being uncovered, whether it be on the federal level, with Doge and Elon Musk and the Trump administration, to here at the state, to see all this stuff that's going on. Like, why is there such an issue? If things have been updated, things have been modernized. They put kiosks in some of the different grocery stores. I think some Harris Teeters had kiosks for DMV. Then why are we still lacking? Why are people still having trouble getting appointments at this point?
Continuing and looking at some of the details in your story over at CarolinaJournal.com, it's not only individuals moving to the state or individuals that need this real ID, but it's also a big issue for teenagers in the state of North Carolina as they try and embark and get a driver's license. There's big time holdups for them. It's not only frustrating them, I'm sure it's frustrating their parents that have to drive them around the state to get some of this paperwork done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And this has been going on for a number of years. You've got complaints going back to the lack of available appointments at the offices, the long wait times, being told to go back, as you say, but for teenagers, they're looking to become, a licensed driver and, going, they have to make 3 different trips to the DMV within 18 months because under state law, anybody, and also too, I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, you're right. Anything for teenagers is so important. And, you're going to have take, it's not even just for teenagers. People are taking time off of work, waiting in line for hours, only to be told, now come back, we're done for the day. Or it's a huge inconvenience. And it's just something that really does need to be taken care of.
One final thing for you this morning. I know that there was some attempts back a few years ago to kind of change the way in which the DMV handles appointments. You can now pre-register for some appointments online. There's also an in-person wait period that takes place. Suffice to say, Theresa, while that may have alleviated a little bit of pain and pressure, it's still a major issue across North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. So, like they say, it's rare to find an available slot 2 months out in some of the online booking system in some of the areas, and even some major cities in the state don't even offer booking times. That's still an issue going on. So yeah, it's something that truly needs to be looked at. We've even had legislators like Michael Lazzara. He said last year, a broken DMV is a broken promise to our constituents, and also said if this was in the private sector, there would be no agency for how things are being handled. So definitely something that needs to be taken care of. And as you say, Real ID is coming fast and furious for that deadline coming up later this year, that needs to be taken care of as well.
Finally, for you this morning, he's announced that he will be stepping down at the end of his term. He is not resigning. Is this an appointed position from the governor? Is this something that the General Assembly picks? How do we get the next head of the North Carolina Division of Motor Vehicles? Yeah,
so it is an appointed position. However, people do need to apply. In fact, the state advertised his job a few weeks ago on the state's online job portal. That closed yesterday for applications, but someone does need to be appointed to the position. It is not something that is voted on, like, say, state auditor or the state treasurer's office.
It is something that we will keep an eye on. A great update this morning from Theresa Opeka. You can read more of her story over at CarolinaJournal.com. You're listening to the Carolina Journal News Hour. We're at 545 News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Another look at traffic on your Thursday morning. An update with Boomer Von Cannon.
Thank you, Nick.
Good morning again. It's 5:51. You're listening to the Carolina Journal News Hour on News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. A major focus this morning on the North Carolina General Assembly and ongoing things in Raleigh, as it has been a busy week there as lawmakers have had dozens of committee meetings taking place over the last couple of days. We now turn our attention to the House of Representatives and a recently introduced bill there to establish a financial aid program for farmers who experienced significant crop loss in 2024. It's known as the Agricultural Crops Disaster Relief Bill, House Bill 130, and it's sponsored by Representative Jimmy Dixon out of Duplin County, Neil Jackson out of Moore County, Howard Penny out of Harnett County, and Representative Blair Edens out of Wilkes County. During a press conference yesterday morning, Representative Dixon claimed regardless of location, farmers are in desperate need of support. He told the crowd, quote, "The various production methods and processes from one end of the state to the other, we need and have a great variety that helps us produce the food and fiber necessary to clothe ourselves, feed ourselves, and remain a free nation. The concept behind this bill is to try and find a common denominator that connects East and West, and to make it as simple as possible. Farmers grow crops. There's no distinction between growing a crop." Unlike past efforts that have excluded larger farms, this bill ensures proportional relief for all affected farmers. The aid does not fully aim to compensate farmers, but does provide a financial boost to help them continue operations. Dixon claimed, quote, "It's important for us to make them whole. So what we're trying to do is when they finally determine that they've got $1 of uninsured loss, we want to decide how much we can give them. And that's going to be somewhere between 10 and 20 cents, depending on their amount of loss." Representative Jackson told the Carolina Journal, quote, "North Carolina's agricultural and ag business had an economic impact on the state of $111 billion in 2024. House Bill 130 seeks to provide relief to those that suffered significant damage due to natural disasters. $475 million will be transferred from various reserves to the State Disaster Relief Fund, and those funds will be appropriated for the 2024 Agricultural Disaster Crop Loss Program. The program provides financial assistance to farmers across North Carolina with verified losses from agricultural disaster in 2024. And obviously, most of those eyes would be looking at the western half of the state, where in some cases, entire family farms, generational family farms, completely wiped off the map. The bill appropriates $475 million to that fund, which will be transferred to the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The money appropriated for the program is funded through several reserve funds, including $200 million from the Economic Development Project Reserve, where that money was sitting. Joseph Harris, who is our fiscal policy analyst over at the John Locke Foundation, said House Bill 130 aims to transfer a total of $475 million from three different reserve accounts into the State Emergency and Disaster Relief Fund to create and finance this loss program. $200 million would come from the Stabilization and Inflation Reserve, which was established to fund costs associated with inflation and other measures necessary to stabilize the state economy. Another $200 million would be transferred from the Information Technology Reserve, which was developed to fund information technology projects, and the final $750 million would come from that Economic Development Project Reserve that we were just talking about. Harris said that while these three reserves were not designed to finance disaster relief efforts, transferring the funds into the State Emergency and Disaster Relief Fund frees up those monies to be used for disaster recovery. He concluded by saying, in addition to House Bill 30 aimed at agriculture, policymakers have also put forth House Bill 47, which would appropriate a separate $500 million to other general disaster relief efforts. According to a January report from the State Comptroller's Office, the Stabilization and Inflation Reserve had a balance of over $1 million. The Information Technology Reserve had a balance of $348 million, and the Economic Development Project Reserve had a balance of $703 million. The bill reads, quote, "The program shall be used to provide federal financial assistance to farmers with verified losses from an agricultural disaster in the state in 2024. The department may use up to 1% of funds allocated for the program for administrative services. This bill is a one-time measure, not a reoccurring relief program." So we are not talking about overall ongoing, continuing relief for farmers in regards to this. We are talking about one-time damages that took place over the last year in the state of North Carolina. We'll keep a close eye on House Bill 30 over on our website, carolinajournal.com, and right here on the Carolina Journal News Hour. Another busy day today in Raleigh. Dozens more meetings taking place within the North Carolina General Assembly. We'll be keeping a close eye on all of that. And that's going to do it for a Thursday edition. WBT News is next, followed by Good Morning BT. We're back with you tomorrow morning, 5 to 6, right here on News Talk 1110 and 99.3 WBT.